even from writing this less than 2 years ago, I feel differently about it now. Like now I feel like I very much am a representation of the Southern man. I was allowing somebody else or even just myself to create this image that isn't correct.
This season on Equitable, we're spending time talking about joy, because joy is what will sustain us in difficult times. Coming up, you'll join a conversation with my colleague, Kym Alexander, and Landon Bryant, a social media personality and author of Bless Your Heart, a field guide to all things Southern. When I found Landon on the internet, I discovered a beautiful corner of love, joy, and community. It reminds me that we are more alike than we are different, that there is more that connects us than divides us. I'm Dr. Adriane Johnson-Williams, and this is Equitable. Hey, y'all. I am so excited to have this conversation.
I'm so excited as well.
I have so many different thoughts that I want to engage in around the South and around joy. And of course, as is the case with all things equitable, around equity. And so the first thing we like to do, Landon, is have people introduce themselves as human beings, separate from what you do for a living. Who is Landon Bryant?
I love that question. And I am Landon, and I'm just a guy from the South who talks entirely too much. I love all things art, and I love all things people, and I love starting conversations and having a good time with the people that I love and learning things from people that I don't know.
And you were a teacher once upon a time, yes?
I was a teacher for almost 10 years. I taught visual art. I also taught science for a year, but a visual art teacher at Laurel Magnet School of the Arts here in Laurel, Mississippi, and a public school here. Public school is very important to me, and I learned so much from that classroom. I don't think I'd be here today if I hadn't done all that.
Yeah. And now you're a social media influencer, is that what they call you? And an author.
Yes, whatever this is you call me, that's what I do now. I don't know what the name for it is, but one of the, what that's what I do.
And it fits really well together because you get to talk a lot.
Exactly, works really well.
Well, Kym and I are thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you. I'm glad to have Kym join us because I often talk about how I am a very proud Black Southerner. Kym is a proud Southerner who is also a white woman. And so we are like a duo of the South. And I think it's great that we're able to work together, particularly around issues of identity and race and equity.
For sure.
So as we jump in, I want to do a brief little reading on two sections of your book, which is beautifully titled Bless Your Heart, a field guide to all things Southern. And so I really love the section of your book after the introduction called What is the South? As a proud Southerner, I have traveled all over the world. And the thing about my personality that I think makes me most foreign in places is actually my Southernness. So I want to, that's going to be a thread here today. So here is one of the paragraphs that I think is incredibly beautiful. The South is a lifestyle as much as it is a place. The South is sweet tea, screen porches, and blazing hot sun. It is visiting your neighbor and being offer-forced the best versions of homemade treats. It's sitting on the porch shelling peas with your great-grandma. It's being outside till supper time. The South is drinking from a water hose after you ate all the blueberries you could pick. It is muscadines and pocket stained with dewberries. It's honeysuckles and lightning bugs and watermelon with sometimes salt. It's an identity unlike any other that melts into every part of a Southerner's life and soul. It seeps into how we speak, how we eat, how we celebrate, love, play, and grieve, which also makes it an easy target for misunderstandings, stereotypes, and complications. The South is also not a monolith. It is a region full of variables. And then there's one other sentence I want to add here.
I'm gonna get you to narrate the audiobook again. My goodness gracious.
Okay, I'd love to do that. And so there's one more paragraph I want to add to this before we get to the personal part. I grew up in the Deep South in Mississippi. I'm sure just saying that I'm from Mississippi evokes a lot of feelings in a lot of people. All those feelings are valid. And I do believe it is important for everyone to investigate and reflect on the way we got to where we are. I am in no way diminishing those stories. I'm just going to leave that to the experts. In this book, we're going to talk about things we can all relate to because we need some agreement. We need more union in this union. There is not a single part of this book I don't read with a smile, but I every single section I read with a smile. But that this section really touches my heart, and it's distinct from the other parts of the book. So, could you share with us why it is you wrote this section? Because the other parts are these lovely, funny tidbits. Why this section?
Well, actually, that I think I spent more time on that section than any of the other sections. You maybe can tell. I felt like it's very important to address. There's so much privilege. There's so much that comes with being who I am in this place, and I recognize that a lot of that has gotten me to the point of being able to write this book. And so there's no way I could just write the book and pretend like everything is fine and nothing is wrong and there's nothing that we need to address. That would not be genuine. Genuine is very important to me. It also would not be real. That's not real life. And I think for us to move forward as Southerners and as a nation, we have to be able to talk about things. And we also, on the other hand, have to be able to find things that we agree about with each other and find things that we can have common ground on. So that chapter was very important to me to show that like ever your feelings about the South are very valid and it's something that we all need to investigate for sure. And also here's some things that are good about the South and let's focus on them and then maybe we can come together and have that conversation as we need to. But that I spent so much time like picking exactly the right words, like trying to get that exactly right. It's a delicate line to walk on and I feel like I it was important to me to get that out, and there's more to be said for sure, I feel like there's more to be said, but I was pleased with how that came together.
I think it's beautiful. And I also am very picky about what states people include in the South. At the same time, a saying that I agree with is that the boundaries of the South are the boundaries of the United States of America. Because all the things that people think of as challenges, all the negative ideas that people have about the South are everywhere, everywhere.
They are, and even some places have not yet had to address it, like, here we live it, so it's like a real it's in our faces a lot of times, but the more I travel, the more I go, the more I realize there's people that have never been exposed to another culture than theirs, have never been exposed to diversity in any way, and so we almost have a little bit of an advantage of, like, we're in the thing, doing the thing, and you can see that other places.
Yep, yep, we just talk about it. Kim, when I was reading about that, all that stuff about what the South is, I know we're city girls and some of this is country girl stuff, but what were you thinking when I was reading that section? What do you think about that?
It was handled in such a genteel Southern way. It's everything that needed to be said, but still with an extreme eye to being very welcoming.
Mhm.
And I think that that welcoming nature is one of the most beautiful parts of Southern culture. So
Mhm.
it really got me in my feels. So while I was smiling, I was also had like tears in my eyes because I
Yep,
was like,
yep.
yeah, it's complex and it's beautiful.
I
And
agree.
you really hit the nail on the head. I thought it was really, really beautifully said.
I love to hear that. There's just so many layers to living here. I think that's why we're so good at art and music and things like an expression, literature it's because it takes so many layers and so much nuance and so much depth to exist here with the cognitive dissonance of being a person in this place. It is really really something that you have to reckon with and it takes a lifetime really I feel like to reckon with that. I don't know if we ever even will. But I'm thrilled to hear that y'all say that about that because I feel all those same things very deeply.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna try to resist every urge I have to kind of fangirl about this next section. But you are a gift on the internet because you bring love, joy, and community to a space that can be very contentious. And in our current context, there's a lot more contention than there has been in a while. And so how did you build that?
Well, I have to say before I say anything, it wasn't intentional. Like, I didn't mean to. I did things that were intentional, but I didn't see the big picture at the time. When I started doing this, I was still teaching school, and I had 4-year-olds through 6th graders, and a theme that I really more than I wanted to teach them art, and visual art was important to me, more than I wanted to teach them academics, I wanted to teach them about being people and, like, how to be people, and being kind is one of the things that I think is the most important part of being a person. If you can meet people with kindness, then there's so much that you can do. And so in my classroom, like with my 4-year-olds the first year, we would only say kind things, like not even like your shirt is yellow. I would be like, could you say that in a kind way? And they'd be like, your shirt is a lovely shade of yellow. Like just getting 4-year-olds to think about what is kindness and how does kindness sound like. I started making these videos literally right after their class. Like, that was when I had a little bit of a break. So I had a little bit of a break, and I would be in that mindset of like, and we're gonna be kind when we do this. And so I started the videos with that kind of a tone, and which is kind of part of naturally who I am, and it just took off that way. And I am so glad that I did that. I didn't have the foresight really to understand why I'd be so glad, but I'm so glad that I did that because it has created the most beautiful community. Like, I think my videos are hilarious, obviously, but but the community, the comment section is gold. It is like the best place to be. I've only deleted like 2 comments the whole time that I've done this, and that was when people were being ugly to each other, you know? I don't care what you say about me, but when people were being ugly to each other, then I'm gonna step in. But the community is a place where people can discuss their version of the South, or even not the South, their version of wherever they're from, and it's a place where we can just have conversations about these things. I don't know how I did that, but I'm really glad really glad for that community. I'm so grateful for that. It's a beautiful place. It's a uplifting place. It's a place that gives me hope. Every now and then you can go from one screen to my comment section, and it's like a kind of a breath of fresh air. It's like, oh wait, okay, there are people that we can still converse with. There are people that have great things to say, and there are people that can show love even if they're very different from each other.
It's really true. One of the best exchanges I've had on the internet is a red velvet conversation on one of your videos. It was great. I was like, oh, these people are really interested in my thoughts on
Yeah.
red velvet cake
Oh yeah.
because they weren't from the South. And they were saying ridiculous things like, sorry, I'm not being kind. Like red velvet cake is chocolate cake with red food
Right.
coloring. And that is absolutely not true.
We gotta teach them, we gotta teach them. And you did in those comments, you let them know.
I did,
Uh,
and I did it kindly. I did
y
not tell them
you
that it was
did.
ridiculous. I just, pointed out some things that were real. So yeah, I really
Exactly.
love your community. I miss it. I'm not on social media much anymore.
Well,
And
it'll
that
be
is
there
the
when you come back.
yeah, it's one of the spaces I actually miss. I do get people to give me little bits, what's Landon up to right now, from other folks. So Kym, now's our chance to get into these parts of the book that we really like. So, I am a hey y'all person. I
Oh,
say hey
yeah.
y'all all the time. I said hey y'all on a client email this morning who I'm going to visit. I was like, hey y'all, I'm sending you the agenda. And then the minute I typed it, I went, yep, this is exactly what I
Mhm.
do. So that just kind of boils over with me. But there are a lot of things in this book that I absolutely adore. And they just brings me so much joy just to read the table of contents, which I'm not going to do right now,
Yes.
but it really does. I went through this thing like a checklist and I've like categorized them. I know this. I use this. I have no idea what this is.
I love that. I love that.
And two of the things I had no idea what they were I Swan and Tump. I have never heard or seen that.
Well, that lines up though. That lines up with you not knowing it because both of those things I think are Appalachian in nature. I think they can't come from Appalachia and I have a
Mhm,
little bit of overlap in my family. And I
mhm.
love to notice those differences as well. Go ahead, Kim. I'm sorry to step in. I just love the Appalachian differences, like and Aswan is for sure Appalachian.
It was such a walk down memory lane for me because some of those I do not use, and modern city folk aren't using them as much as my country grandparents who came from farms and had their families had moved across the South and brought different things with them. So, like I swan, definitely. And then it made me remember some of my favorite that might not have been listed. Like my favorite is I'm about to eat like a fattening hog. That is
Amazing.
like my favorite. That's
Amazing.
saying. And there's like a whole like childhood memory that goes with it. And I think by getting people in their heart memories, it is what is allowing people to connect.
I love that that is a phrase that you use. I love the hyperbole of it all. We're so dramatic, like, we'll be as dramatic as you can be, like, take it as far as you can with the phrases. I love that very much. I think that's very fun, and I love that it reminds you of people from the past. I didn't mean to like, again, I didn't set out to do this, but it's turned into to preserving, like, my great-grandparents and the people that I grew up around, like, it turned into that for me. It didn't start out that way, and now it's like you said, people don't use this language anymore. My own son, I I heard him in the back of the house talking to his friends on his virtual reality headset, saying, "You guys," the other day, and I was just like, "Ugh, this we gotta get you gotta read this book," you know? We gotta get the
Because it's
AR
y'all,
points for this
baby.
book.
It's y'all.
It's y'all. It's not you guys. But it's important to preserve those things, I think, because they're going away. You don't hear them as much. It's not as
Mhm.
much of a regular language, and I'm really glad that I got to get it recorded.
Mhm. And it really is about, language and communication in a way that is intracultural, right? It doesn't matter kind of what other identities you bring to, the room. If you're Southern, there are certain things, and if you're Southern from the same region, right? Because you do point out, like, South Carolina is different from West Virginia. But if you're from the same region, you speak the same language to some degree. Now, there is one thing I am very fancy. People who listen to the podcast and anybody's Googled me, I went to the fancy schools, I have the fancy degrees. And so when I was dating my now wife, we were hanging out somewhere and I said, Teen ain't she? I said, just this little bit of teen ain't she bit right here. Teen ain't she? And she looked at me like I had four heads. She was like, what did you just say? Did you just say teenage? Where are you from? I was like, I'm from Memphis. I'm from the South. My family's from Mississippi. I mean, teenage is a word, ain't it? And she's just like, and you said, ain't it? I mean, it was a revelation. But I was like, I speak the language of
Oh,
my
yeah.
people. I
And
do.
also could do a recipe with that type of measurements in it.
Yes.
Like, that's why our food doesn't taste the same as grandma's because it was measurements like to Nancy and
Yeah.
a little scooch, just a little bit, like
Scooch.
little words like that.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. Um, Kim, was there another part that you thought was really something you wanted to talk about here too? I think there was one, I forget.
I was just thinking as I was looking through and reading that there's so much beauty and there's like the old South, right? And that's where it just gets dicey. But there's also a new South. And I wonder what you might want. What would be like maybe your top 3 list of things we gotta bring forward with us into this new South?
Ooh, now that's fun. For sure, y'all. Y'all is for sure. It's so inclusive. It's
100%.
everything like that. I that is such a good question because there's so much that is like we said earlier is not the part of the culture now, I feel like the attitude of taking care of each other we have to take forward and it's such a different world now. Like everything is so virtual. My relationship with my neighbors is not the same. My relationship with the town is not the same, I don't know, we can be very isolated, and being American today is to be an individual, like, we really prize that. I feel like there's community that I wish we could take forward,
Mm,
like, the concept of being offered forced food. I used to, like, just be miserable, like, stuffed, and then would go to my grandma's house, and there's no way around it, like, you're gonna eat whatever she's gonna put on the table, and you
Yes.
would, and it would never stop, and it's because it goes back to a time when people didn't have much, and so they were making sure you were okay while preserving your pride, like,
yeah,
they wouldn't make you say, "Yes, I am hungry, I have not eaten." They would just
mhm.
make you eat, and then all the boxes are checked. I know you're going home fed. If you weren't fed, great, you have some more food. But just the idea of that we're all each other's responsibility. I grew up in a world where I could walk out my front door and go to anybody's house on the street, and they would be
Yeah.
I would be taken care of, really, basically taken care of, whether they were in my family, whether they were looked like me, didn't look like me, we were all the same, and all everybody was taking care of each other, and I do feel like we've made progress in that area, but I also feel like the virtualness of today and the globalness of today and the individualism of today has taken a little bit of that away. So
Well,
I would love for that to come forward. I don't know what that would look like exactly. Like, yesterday, my neighbors brought over they were grilling outside because their little son was having a birthday party, and they brought a plate over, and I was like, "This is what I'm hoping for, this right here," and, of course, I was the one receiving the plate, so I I guess you can see where the work needs to happen, but the idea of community and then the idea of family, family's not the same ever since really COVID and since that generation that was leading us and keeping us together, they're gone now, and I do think that there's something to be said about, like, family, like being back together again like that in the way that we were. We were just, like, all in each other's business so much growing up, and which both drove me nuts, and now that I look back on it also was, like, a beautiful thing. So, there's some things I would love to take forward is, like, those things,
mhm,
and it mostly has to do with us being together.
yeah. I've been having a lot of conversations lately about the one solution to every human problem is human connection. Right? So any problem we have, we can address it through social cohesion or through community or
Ooh.
through connection. And when you said the thing to take forward is kind of, being in community with each other, that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah.
And I also was at a kind of impromptu birthday party for a cousin this weekend, and it was all kind of a different generation, right? So it
Mm.
wasn't my mom's generation,
Yes.
it was the next generation, and we were all together as grown-ups, and, the host, my cousin, when it was time to go, she went to the closet and pulled out to-go containers. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, "If that's not the most Southern thing,
Oh, no.
like, y'all need to take this with you. You gonna need something? What you gonna eat later?" It was a whole
Exactly.
moment, and I was so
Mhm.
proud of us. I was like, "Look at
I know.
us
Look at us
being
dick
grown-up."
picking the torch up and take carrying it. I think that's so good. And it is a moment where like I'm almost 40 and so now it's like somebody forgot to tell us we are the adults now, like, oh, we have to arrange these things now. Like, oh, we've got to get the to-go plates and stuff like that. I love that that's this thing that you remember because that's something that could easily slip away, It could easily slip away, but it's our responsibility now. I've I guess I don't feel old enough yet, but it's our time.
It's time, Landon, you're old enough.
It is.
Uh,
It
so,
is.
Kim, what do you think should go forward? I know it was your question, but what's your answer?
It really is similar, and something that's been on my mind a long time is breaking bread together. It
Mhm,
it's biblical, it's powerful, it's
mhm.
something we all know how to do, and I've been meaning to, and I will be honest that opening up my home post-COVID has been a little bit
Yes.
frightening. I don't know if it's frightening or if I'm just like, "I can't get it clean enough." I don't know, but something changed where I was like, "Y'all
Yes.
come," and now I'm like, "I gotta prep." But we I have a friend who's been throwing Sunday dinners, and she says, "I have room for 8 people, who's coming?" And I've
I
been
love
thinking
that.
about that and that it is summertime now, and it is time to open up those doors and bring sitting in those chairs out in the yard talking while somebody's cooking or maybe everybody brings a little something
Yeah.
to share and show off because that's a big part of it too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that there would be just so much healing if people would just sit down and break bread together and just talk
I agree.
and be intentional about it and not just invite, people who look like you or live in your neighborhood or whatever, but say, "This week, I'm going to invite, these 6 people, and next week, I'm gonna invite these 6 people," and start mixing it up, and I think that that would be something just so beautiful to carry forward.
I think that's lovely and also could be the key.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about potlucks though. I can only eat food that other people bring. I don't know about that. I say this all, the sayings, who made this? That's the question. Who made this? I just solve that problem by making everything or appointing people.
The
Right?
Makes
appointing
sense.
You will
is
come, you
mhm.
will bring this, and you will bring this. And if anybody shows up with something I didn't request, it'll sit there. I'm gonna put it out.
And there's a hierarchy to the covered dish. There is a hierarchy. Like, I know something about
Mhm.
you based on what you got assigned to come to this
Yes.
hierarchy di like, I'm still plates, knives, napkins, forks, like, and I mess that up every now and then so that they don't think I can move up to salads, because that's too much pressure.
I'm
But
bottle of
but
wine because
that's a
everybody in
good
my
place to
family is a
be.
chef. And when I first got married, my husband's like, "You're bringing a bottle of wine." I was like, "Do not mess up a good thing for me."
Don't mess up a good thing, and, like, don't you dare bring a good mac and cheese or something because then you're bringing that every year exactly the same
Every
way.
year.
No change to
Too
Mhm.
the
much
recipe.
labor.
So,
Mhm.
it's a lot of pressure. I, really like where I am on the scale. I don't wanna move up, but maybe it's time. Maybe we're old enough. I don't know.
Hey, I would say if you're comfortable where you are, you might wanna stay there.
I do like where I am.
It makes life easier. I made the mistake of making a delicious winter fruit salad to take to
Ugh.
my aunt's birthday party, and it was a lot of work. It was very small,
Mhm.
kind of cut apples, and then I
Oh, yeah.
peeled pears so people couldn't tell that it was pears, so there'd be a little surprise, and I put and some, other stuff in there and something not very Southern, pomegranate. Um, but I made it and I took it and people were looking at it like, "Who just put up a bunch of apples in a thing?" And they ate, they're like, "This is delicious." And my cousin who impromptu hosted the party said, "I don't wanna ask you to bring that salad, that fruit salad you made." I was like, "Good, because I'm not gonna bring that."
But
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Um, okay.
you're gonna be
Uh,
making that salad again. You know you are.
I am. My aunt was like, "I need you to make that salad again when next time you come over." Okay, a more serious topic. I'm gonna go back to the what is the South, and, there's another topic particularly I wanna get into around the issue of equity, specifically. So, this is from the same section. It's right after we need more union in this union. It is worth noting that I, personally, do not align with the conventional image of a Southern male, which I always consider to be characterized by brawn and a penchant for camouflage attire. I spent many years believing I did not belong because of this, and many years trying to replicate what I believed to be the norm. I had a whole era. I said error. It was like a slip because it really
I understood it, though.
that felt like a slip, didn't it? I had a whole era of hiking gear turned outfits. Over time, I learned to settle into myself and get comfortable with this version of a man, a soft-spoken, long-haired, sensitive, artistic type, full of ADHD. But my time spent believing I was an outsider did have one positive impact. It made me see my people and culture from an outside perspective. Now, Landon, that was lovely. And it really does bring up a lot of good things to say that we could talk about gender, which we will. But when I read that, and I've heard you say something similar before, I thought, but isn't being like genteel um part of being Southern? I feel like you are kind of a 21st century version of what people think of as an early 20th century Southerner. All you need is a seersucker suit like
Like
the
a
one
s
you have on your cover of your book and a walking stick or something and a straw hat to be like quintessentially Southern. So help me understand kind of that perspective that you have in your book.
Well, I agree with you, and my world has expanded so much since I even wrote these words. Like, I've been all over the place and all over the South, and so now that version of a man that you're describing, I've met him, like, all over the South now, but when I was younger, Jones County was so small, and it was so insulated, and it seemed like it was the whole world, and it art was not on the forefront of the people's minds, and being soft-spoken was not a great characteristic. It was more like football and hunting and that kind of a thing, and I've never killed an animal in my life, like, that's not my vibe, and so I knew that I was not the same as everyone around me. Now I realize that sort of in that section, I was putting the whole South in one Jones County, Mississippi box, and the South is not a monolith. Like I even said that in the book, and but it's very easy when you don't see yourself reflected in your surroundings to think that you are not what you're supposed to be. And that was how I felt growing up. And not in a way that people like bullied me, not in a way that I was like looked down on, but I just definitely knew I'm not into like this, that what y'all are doing. This is not my vibe. So I put myself in an outsider box, and I related more to the women that I grew up with because they were who I was around. That was who I was following. My great grand she that was daycare. It was like your great grandma's your daycare. Your grandma's when she retired, that's where I would stay. And I'd follow them to the beauty shop. I was around my cousins who are girls, my mom who's a lady, and they're the ones who influenced me the most. And all the men in my family were working. They were not around, so they weren't as big of an influence as those ladies were, and I just related to that so much, and I noticed the people around me didn't seem to the other boys around me didn't seem to relate to that as much as I did, so I really did feel that way for the longest time. I wish I could go back in time and be like, "No, who you are is wonderful and who you are is great." It embrace that side of you, but it took me growing up to get to that point. It really did. I think it also has to do it a little bit with neurodivergence. Definitely, like, have a few things going on there that, highlighted those feelings for sure, but I think it's very fun that I even from writing this less than 2 years ago, I feel differently about it now. Like, now I feel like I very much am a representation of the Southern man. I was allowing somebody else or even just myself to create this image that isn't correct, and that is a version of man here. They're here. They're out there, but it's not all encompassing, and I think that's beautiful, and I'm glad to raise my son in a generation where that's not at all on the forefront of his mind. He can be whatever he wants to be?
Yeah, yeah. Although when you and your wife get dressed up, y'all really do look like
I'll be
kind of a
fancy.
really like exactly, just gorgeous. I was like, this well, you still need that, walking stick and a different kind of hat for different outfits though. That would really put it over the
One day
top.
I love the seersucker comment because the seersucker on the cover of the book is this here, and at first it was me in just, like, a regular shirt like I wear, and I was much bigger and with "Bless your heart" across it, and they were like, "Is this a religious text?" So, the
Because you look
solution
like you look like white
The
Jesus.
solution.
so did. They're
Seersucker.
like, "Is this a devotion?" And so so they shrunk me and put me in seersucker. That was the way we got around that, so because Jesus didn't wear any seersucker.
That is excellent.
That's
That's
real notes.
excellent.
Really a meeting I had to have.
Okay, now let's discuss ma'am and sir.
Let's
And we're
do.
gonna have Kym really dig into ma'am and sir for us because we learned that
Yes.
Kym doesn't say ma'am and sir, which feels to me very not Southern. So, Kym, how is it that you came about being a lifelong Southerner and not saying ma'am and sir all the time?
I had, one of those not standard issue Southern men for a father. He fancied himself a rebellious hippie, and I actually had to think about this because I was like, "Where does that come from?" Because I didn't say it as a child, and my father felt that the use of ma'am and sir had a lot of negative historical reasoning around children being seen and not heard, as well as along racial lines of who was higher on the hierarchy and had to be, um, demure. I think it's the new word they're using in the socials these days to other people in order to stay safe. And he was like, there is no reason that yes and no are not full sentences. And so which is so strange because the rest of my family does use ma'am and sir. So how I got around it, I guess they sort of were like, "Ugh, her daddy." Like, "Look what he's teaching her."
Bless her heart.
Yes, bless her heart. Well, God love him, and, he's got his opinions, and so I didn't and then I was a Southerner who could not wait to get out of the South, and did, and moved several times to other places and was pulled back one way or another, and I found in other places that ma'am and sir were not taken as a loving or respectful, that you were like calling somebody old, and or they would even make judgments about your intelligence based on it. So I really worked to lose a lot of my southernisms, including my
Mhm.
accent. I mean, I lived in New York City, so obviously, I didn't want to go around like, "Hi, y'all," and so that's why, and I don't teach it to my daughter. And we've hit that in school where they're like, "It's yes, ma'am," and I'm like, "Well, you're welcome to explain, or they can talk to me, or you can just say yes, ma'am. Like it's okay." So that's where it came from.
If I just looked at my mama and said yes when I was a kid, she would have paused and been like, "What?" I can't imagine.
Come again? Like
"Are you okay? Are you still breathing? Like, did you have something else you want to say?" Yes. Linda, what's your experience with ma'am and sir?
Well, that's my experience with the famine service. Is it was required. It was not a option. It was something that you could get in a lot of trouble for not saying yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. And I agree, though. I agree. It is like a very binary situation. It is like
Mhm.
not acknowledging so many parts of life. It can, if you aren't used to it, it could seem like very ageist. As a teacher in school, I recognize that with my students, and definitely would not encourage them to call me yes sir, or even yeah, I'd be like, yeah, a yes is fine. Yes, a yes is fine. With my son, I've taught him the conditional arrangements of it, which is like sort of goes into the nuance of living here. Like if you're with your grandma and granddad, that's yes sir and yes ma'am. With us, we're just gonna talk like we're people and just regular. But it goes when you're when I grew up, it was just like a sign of respect, and it wasn't for somebody older than you, it wasn't for somebody less than you or better than you, it was for everybody. Like, if I would teachers were "Yes, ma'am," people younger than me could be "Yes, ma'am," people older than me could be "Yes, ma'am," and "Yes, sir," especially, like, the Mister and Miss of it all, like, all my teachers were Miss so and so or Miss this or that, and it would be for instance, to this day, like, when I'm been doing book signings, they'll write who it's to. It'll be, like, "To Adriane," or "To whoever," and it is all I can do to not write "To Miss Adriane," or "To Miss Julia," because that's how I was raised to say that, but I'm very aware of how it feels to other people from getting out of the South and going other places and visiting and learning those things. I I love to show respect, and I love to be respectful, and I think respect is meeting people where they are, and if you are a person believes that it is rude for me to not call you yes ma'am or yes sir, then I'm gonna call you yes ma'am or yes sir. Like, I'm gonna fill out the vibes of the situation. If there's one thing we've got, we can fill out the
Yes.
vibe. We can fill out the
Yes.
nuance. But if you're a person who is offended by that, or somebody who's ever expressed that they don't appreciate that, then that's a no-go. It's like, it would be so rude to use that. So I think it's a conditional thing right now. I do wish we could find a third term, like a better term that could be inclusive for everybody. We've got y'all. It's like the most inclusive term of all the terms. So I wish we could find a way to make that as inclusive as well. But I think that is such an interesting conversation, and it changes from place to place. It changes from day to day. It, I, I don't even really know how I taught my son to differentiate between who we do this to and who we don't. It's really just like a vibe that you pick up on. And
It's like
so
learning
that
grammar. I think it's like
yes,
learning grammar, right? Like
it's situational.
nobody sits down and teaches us grammar. Well, until we go to school.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to school, we know how to say whole sentences grammatically correctly. And ma'am and sir is part of our grammar. And one of the things that I worry about, because we really want organizations to be inclusive, we really want, in the pursuit of equity, for us to respect people's gender identity. And I find myself on the verge of saying it still.
Yeah.
When I am in like customer service things, I want for the people behind the counter to feel like I respect them. I want them to know I respect them. So they'll say something to me and I'll say, yes, yes. Not like and I really,
Yes.
and I was like, oh, what should I say? How do I communicate respect? And so that's a kind of a growing thing for me. And ma'am and sir are also not even just respect, it's also just greeting, right? So my
I agree.
four-year-old niece, when she calls me Auntie Adrian, I turn to her, yes, ma'am. right? My nephew walks in the room, "Hey, Auntie Adrian, hello, sir." Right? It's like it is just part of how we talk. So
Mhm.
I am really interested in the ways that there are certain things that are Southern that are really about being polite and respectful that are actually bumping up against some things that can be exclusionary and hurtful to some
It's a
degree.
challenge, and I do err on the side of I would rather not exclude anybody, so if that
Yeah.
means me being a little uncomfortable and just saying yes, then I'm gonna be a little uncomfortable and just say yes. I mean, I've been misgendered with ma'ams and sirs. Get me through a drive-through when I was younger, and my voice was a little bit higher, I was ma'am every time, and it really got all over me, and because I was very sensitive about that at the time, now I could care less, but it is a thing. It's a thing, and it's something that we have to really consider and see what I don't know the solution to this, and that's why, again, we have community and have conversations like this. This is how we figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to
Um,
have that conversation with the younger generation. They have been
mhm.
so pivotal in how we're using language, and I love language. I'm a theater
Love
person
the
and
language.
background, and, you know, they come up with some really beautiful things, so maybe that's your
They
next
do.
question.
They really do. They
Okay.
Hey,
also come
young
up with some
Maybe I'll
folks.
crazy
ask my
stuff.
nephew. I'll ask my nephew.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jack, what y'all talking about? Although he does say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, because he's raised in that kind of household. But I'm curious to know what
Mhm.
he's saying right now.
So we've got some
Okay.
homework already.
Yes.
Yes, we've got some homework. So one more book topic, and then we're really coming to our the end of our time together. So I smiled throughout the book, but I got absolutely giddy when I got to the superstition section
Oh, yeah.
and you talked about what you learned from Gullah Gullah Island, the TV show. And I don't know anything about Gullah Gullah Island, but
Oh, it's so good.
the TV show, I know about Gullah, but I don't know about the TV show. And when I was looking at the list of things, I mean, it was like I got a little kind of, oh my God, like this is in the book. And a couple of them was the one that I really, really liked was don't comb your hair outdoors or a bird can get it. Weave it into a nest and give you bad headaches, right? That
Yes.
was like, I remember that. The other thing that was associated with that when I was growing up is that you kind of take it and burn it or something so that nobody can put a root on you,
Oh, yeah.
so nobody can put
Mhm.
a spell on you.
Mhm.
So that was another thing along with nails. And then the other one, which happens everywhere I go in the South, is that if you're in a room and you've got a handbag or something, don't put your purse on the floor or you'll always be broke. Uh,
Yes.
and so I love that. I assumed that that was part of kind of Southern, those things were part of Southern Blackness. But reading it in your book, I was like, oh, other people outside of my little part of the South actually think about this.
For sure, and I think that speaks to how much we've taken from the Black community and from communities that are like I mean, all those superstitions, they have bases in the Gullah community, they have bases in Hoodoo and Louisiana. It's all these things that really come from Black people that we have that just became over time part of the culture as well, and I think that's so beautiful, especially if we can acknowledge where it came from and give credit to the people that it came from together. But I love that amalgamation of culture that I specifically live in Laurel, Mississippi. This is a really diverse community, and you can. I feel like I'm a product of the clash of those two cultures coming together and being with each other and being in space together. And I think the superstitions are they're not only are they hilarious, but it's just like a very connected thing to the South and to this place. It makes me feel connected to the people that built this place and the people that we're from all these cultures, and I think it's very beautiful. There's some silly things, like, it's so silly, but I just love the history of it, and I loved having that conversation with Ron and Natalie Dice, the parents from Gullah Gullah Island. First of all, felt like a catch me moment. I was like, "Wow, this is very surreal." They were superheroes to me when we were younger, but, it also speaks to I never would have known that those things came from there if I had not seen them in popular media. If I had not been a part of their like watching their show and seeing them every day, I wouldn't have known that at all. It would have just been something that my grandma did, and it wouldn't have been something that has a history to it. But because they were so public facing and decided to share their part of the culture with everybody, I knew that, and I think that's wonderful. I wish everybody had the power to do that, and everybody could see where all this stuff comes from, because it's like a beautiful mosaic of all these things, what we have today.
Yeah, it is. It is a mosaic. I like mosaic better than some of the other terms people do, like a melting pot. We're not a melting pot. We
Right,
are a
there's so many.
mosaic, and mosaics are way more beautiful than a bunch of melted sludge.
What do they call it? Like a salad now instead of the melting
Yes.
pot? Something like that. Yeah, mosaic is good too.
Yeah, yeah. It's more beautiful.
It
Yes.
is.
Okay. So we have come to the end of our time together, and I'm a little sad about that.
I'd hang out all day.
I know, but
You're not far. You're not far.
it's true. We haven't been to Laurel.
We haven't.
Y'all are
Um,
gonna have to come for so sure. I got to get y'all on the podcast first of all, but that's not what we're talking about now. I know.
Okay.
Anyways.
so Landon, when you think about the idea of equity, how do you define it, and how does it show up in your life and work?
Well, I think equity is it's a beautiful thing. I think it's such a thing. I like really believe in like lifting other people up at like as I go, whether that's like spotlighting voices that might not be heard or don't always get heard, or if it's like paying fairly for creative work, because that's a whole
Mhm.
thing in this business. Like people don't get paid for what they are worth, or for making sure that there's opportunities that aren't just open for just me, but for everybody here, and like representing this place for everybody that's here and not just people that look like me. I think it doesn't always mean like equal, right? But it means thoughtful. It means like it's recognizing what people need, when they need it, where they need it, and what help is needed, and then making sure everybody's got the same seat at the table. It might take us different ways to get to that seat, but we're all going to be at the same seat, and so helping people to get there. I feel like that's what equity is. So like I guess it means recognizing where help's needed, who hasn't had a seat at this table, and how
Mhm.
can I use this platform to pull that off.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank
Now,
you.
I'm going to assume that most people know how to find you, but just in case, where should people look if they want to find you on the interwebs?
You can find me as Landon Talks all across social media. I did get a little too clever for myself and thought my YouTube videos were going to be longer content, so I made it Landon Talks a lot. I don't know. Somebody wasn't checking on me that day. But those places, then you've got the book, which is everywhere books are found, our podcast, Landon Talks with Kate. And I'm about to announce the next round of stand-up comedy tours, so you'll be looking out for
Yay!
that, and I'll come to a city near you.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. This was lovely. I really enjoyed this.
Visit standpointconsulting.com.